Hello and welcome to episode 133 of Sutton Back Family. I'm Jason, and this is the second attempt at episode 133 because we had some technical difficulties.
Technology's not been our friend in this webcast.
No.
I'm Bill. I want to start off with our business moment, and it's about MLB and the Players Weekend uniforms. I love the concept of Players Weekend. I think it's good. I think it's cool. They put their nicknames on there. They seem to have a lot of fun with it. I just thought the uniforms were actually atrocious. All black and all white. And the monochrome thing, I understand you're trying to make a fashion statement, but it's not what people want to see. Especially, the Yankees and the Dodgers played, and that's a really historic rivalry. And at least for one game, and I know they asked if they could wear their traditional uniforms for one game. And there's probably not two more iconic uniforms in baseball than the Yankees and the Dodgers. The Cardinals
yeah.
But they were told no, because they have to wear this because they want to sell the merchandise. But I don't think anybody's going to buy the merchandise. I thought the white was terrible. I thought the black was okay. It might have been better with a contrast in it. I don't know. But anyhow, they were going for black out and white out, and I don't think it worked. But I do want to point out that I loved the uniforms that the Pirates and the Cubs wore that I think I commented on last week during the Little League World Series games, where the Pirates uniform said the Berg and the Cubs said the Cubbies. And I thought those uniforms were cool. They were true to the colors, and they were fun uniforms. And if Players Weekend is supposed to be fun, then I like the idea of having a uniform that's fun. So Joe Madden has made the suggestion that maybe each team or some players from each team should design the uniforms for Players Weekend, since it's about the players and they can be true to the marketplace. It's not really different than the NBA's city night uniforms, where you wear something tied into the city. And that's what I think the MLB should do. It's tied in, like, Minnesota wear those Prince uniforms, and Miami wear Miami Vice. I think, and Golden State wears the town. I think those things are cool. Or this,
I think it's very cool.
City and the town. And I don't see why they couldn't do something like that. So I just think they need to move on from this and get some other input. Sometimes minded, and they want to do it all themselves. And I think player input and manager input and everything else would be a great thing.
I think you can look to the NBA a lot of ways.
Yeah.
They seem to be doing a lot of stuff right, so stick with that.
And those uniforms have been extremely cool, and they've had a great reveal for each one, and they've been a lot of fun. Like the Blazers just revealed they're going to wear throwbacks from the 1977 championship year. And they look cool. I mean, I haven't seen that uniform in a long time. And I know in a city like Portland, where that's the only, the first major franchise team there, I think that people will go crazy for it. I think they'll really like it.
Oh, without a doubt.
Instead of having a white-on-white Portland Trailblazer uniform.
No.
All right, so that was that. Let's talk about I want to talk about the Little League World Series. I was very happy that Louisiana won. I thought it was one of the most entertaining Little League World Series in recent years. A team that loses their very first game comes back and wins every game to win the championship. I thought the Curacao team, the Hawaii team, the team from Japan, and Louisiana were all very deserving of winning, and the Virginia team was pretty decent too. It just and the South Korea team was good. And there's a lot of really, really good teams. And they are expanding now to 20 teams, I think, 2 years from now. So there'll be 10 American teams and 10 international teams. So I guess figure out a way to give somebody a bye and do something with seed teams or whatever. But it's a fantastic event. I'm going to have to go sometime, but I'm always pleased to do it. Pleased to watch it every year when it comes on. So let's talk about Oliver Luck. That was the dominant story of the weekend, despite the other stories that were going on.
Andrew Luck.
I said it again.
I double down on that one. Nice.
I guess.
Yeah, so Andrew Luck shockingly retired at 29.
29 with maybe the body of a 49-year-old.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And when people were talking, they basically had 2 healthy seasons. One back in 2014, and then one last year where he really got to show what he could do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to look at what he accomplished. I mean, considering I think Trevor Lawrence is probably the next guy in line as far as that much of a sure thing hype coming out, right?
I would say so, yeah.
Because Andrew Luck was just, this is the next great quarterback. This is, Peyton Manning wasn't quite Peyton Manning when he left, but I mean, they shoved Peyton Manning out the door so they could have Andrew Luck.
Which says something about Andrew Luck's skill set.
Yeah, and he was the consensus number one. There's nobody else you're taking. If you have the first pick, you're taking Andrew Luck. If you have a quarterback and you have the first pick, you're taking Andrew Luck.
Right.
The story on him.
And if you already have a quarterback, you're probably trading your quarterback or pushed him out the door.
Just like they did with Peyton Manning. I mean, like I said, they did to Peyton Manning. You think, he's clearly one of the best, of all time. So
what do you think about the criticism of the timing of the announcement and how people reacted to it?
I think I didn't like, it's easy to sit on the sideline, but I think in the moment, you're at the Colts' third preseason game, you're hyped up. I mean, and you find out you're starting. I mean, I understand the booing on some level. I don't think it's right. I think people are going to regret it, but I don't think it's quite the travesty that people have made it out to be. I think in the moment, I think it was kind of understandable,
I don't know. I mean, that's a guy that's given everything to that franchise. I was not happy with the booing at all. I thought it reflected badly on the fans and the organization.
Oh, I think it reflected badly. I'm just saying, like, I think in the moment, just that gut, visceral reaction of like.
Yeah, they did a half-assed job of staging this. They should have done it either on Friday.
Yeah.
You can't tell one person and think the story's not going to get out, especially a story of that magnitude.
Right. Exactly.
So if somebody new other than Andrew Luck, the risk of that happening grew 100-fold.
And I also feel like, and again, he may have, a few weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, to be specific, his intention would have been, I'm going to be there week 1. I'm ready to roll. But, I think they just felt like this just came out of left field, like us. I mean, we have to reevaluate our predictions on the AFC,
Yeah.
Because we thought the Colts were, clearly their division winner.
Hey, Las Vegas re-upped today, so they redid them all.
Yeah, everybody had to, obviously. But, I mean, it's one of those, like, in the moment.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those, like, when you think about all the terrible things that happened, it just seemed like the gut reaction of these Colts fans. I mean, we don't know how many people in the stadium were booing. It could have just been half or whatever, whatever you're going to say. But, I mean, it just felt like in just that – like the what? No, I mean, it could have been like no, or it may not. It
was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, a lot of people thought it was a hoax. It just wasn't the right thing. No, that couldn't be.
When I saw it on social media, I assumed it was a hoax. Like there wasn't a part of me because it was just it. We hadn't, with Gronkowski, we've heard for 2 years retirement.
Right.
If Brady had stepped away coming back this year, I wouldn't have been shocked. Even into a preseason, halfway, because I've been like, he's 40 something.
Brady last night, we would have all said, yeah, we can understand that he's 42 years old.
He tried to go out. It just, father time got him. We get it. But it was just so hard to imagine Andrew Luck walking away at that given point.
At 29, and he's been rehabbing, and he had that injury in camp, but you always saw him trying to improve on it, trying to make it go. And, I guess you just come to the point where you got to know when to say when. He decided it was when.
And, I mean, last year, he's comeback player of the year. He put up one of his best statistical seasons ever. The Colts, they looked like they were a team really on the verge of maybe being, they would have been those teams if they made the Super Bowl or won the Super Bowl this year. You wouldn't have been shocked.
No, not at all. Not at all. But like I said, Jason, I don't know if he really doesn't come back again.
That's very nice. As we said before, like it wouldn't be shocking if all of a sudden he did come back next year or 2 years from now. I mean, he's only 30. So, and we've heard Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders talk, 2 former Lions that both walked away early. We heard their talk of them coming back.
And they never did. But, respect what the Colts did about the money. And I respect the fact that he didn't want to stay and play for the money either.
Oh, yeah. And I think the other thing, too, again, I mean, if it's a head injury, right? If it was another concussion, nobody says a word. But I think, the fact that we heard it was a calf and then an ankle, and again, not that anyone's had that kind of calf or ankle, but in your mind, everyone's had some sort of, lower leg injury, and they're like, well, that doesn't seem like, it didn't feel big enough for him to walk away from the game, I guess you could say.
I would say that. I would say that's absolutely true. So let's shuffle the deck and redo our AFC South.
I am going to do something I didn't think I wasn't sure I was going to do earlier. I'm not changing. I think they have an excellent team. I think Brissett, former Patriot, looked pretty decent in relief of Andrew Luck. And I think they've got a little bit of that nobody believes in us. We're going to suck it up. We're going to go and we're going to win.
Interesting.
And I say part of that, and then I don't really trust any of the other teams in the division any more than I did,
No, if you saw what Vegas picked the Texans to win 8. I think the Titans to win 8, and the Colts to win 7, and Jacksonville to win 7 games.
And I think that's what it's going to be. I think there's going to be,
I think the winner goes 9-7.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think it's a situation where it's like, oh my God,
So you're going to stick with the Colts?
I'm going to stick with the Colts. Like I said, I think they had the best overall team, and obviously Luck was a big part of that. But I think Brissett was one of the best backups in football.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Texans, even though they get their ass kicked the other day.
I think for the Texans, Trent Williamson of the Redskins is still out there, but the Redskins are apparently asking for a king's ransom for him, even though he says he's never going to play for them again. But it seems like, if they could make a trade and, bring in a great left tackle, there's somebody that could block for them. It would be something, but
while we're on our pro football talk, I would not be, after watching the game last night, I won't be surprised if Ryan Tannehill beats out Marcus Mariota.
I really wouldn't either. Mariota did not play well. I mean, I know that, Mike Vrabel, former Patriot and former Steeler, held the company line and said, we got to block for our quarterback. That's what happened. But I think we've seen what Mariota is. This is year 5.
Yeah, I think he and Jameis Winston might turn out to be the worst 1-2 combination in NFL history.
They're certainly going to give anybody else to run for their money, because I can't think of anybody else like that.
No doubt. I mean, there's a lot of ones that made it into 2 as a bust, but never the 1 into 2 be a bust.
Right. Or at least, I forget what pick RG3 was in his draft, but I mean, he was brilliant till he got hurt. And you could say that he was derailed by injury, where these guys just seem like they're derailed by, maybe not being that good.
Maybe they never got railed to be derailed.
Yeah.
Well, now that we're talking about that a little bit more, let's talk about the Steeler game last night. And we'll keep it short, but we're kind of excited about what we saw.
Very excited about what we saw. I think on that first drive, you saw a little bit of rust with Roethlisberger. But after that, the next drive was just beautiful.
Yeah, precision.
Juju Smith-Schuster, touchdown.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph come in, throw a touchdown pass to James Washington. The more I watch Mason Rudolph, he reminds me of a young Big Ben. Same style.
Yeah.
Tall in the pocket, same style, big arm.
And
I do think he's going to win the number 2 job.
I think he's got the number 2 job almost locked down at this point. Josh Dobbs has been, as exciting as he makes a play with his legs from time to time, he's been really inaccurate, and his completion percentage is really low. And I think that's really going to hurt him as far as who you're going to pick.
But whoever they cut is going to end up on another franchise.
Well, I'm wondering, now with the Colts, I mean, if you think you're going to cut one of those 2. And again, I would like to see the Steelers, and this will be half Steeler, half Patriot minute. Belichick only ever keeps 2 quarterbacks. And I think the Steelers should follow suit and just keep 2 on the roster. Try to stash Devin, try to trade Josh Dobbs if you can. Even if it's for a 6th or 7th round pick, it's still a pick. And then keep Rudolph and Roethlisberger on the roster and try to stash Hodges, on the practice squad. And realize that if you get down to your 3rd quarterback, you're probably screwed anyway. So
You know what, Jason? That's pretty logical because as we were talking, the linebacker and wide receiver depth on the team's incredible.
And I don't want to see them, I don't want to see them lose a potential future because I mean, you got Chicolo, who is, I think, a little bit like he's been, you know, I think he's sort of like in that Winston Mariota camp. We know what he is. And he's not a starting NFL linebacker.
I like these other guys better.
I like him a lot better. And we got 3 guys at the University of Toledo. Like I think they're going to start. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. We'll just call him UA. James Harrison Mini. I think he's going to start out on the injured, designate IR for a few weeks, which will allow them to maybe get a few more weeks to looking at Skipper or one of these other guys.
Skipper makes things happen.
He does. He's
very impressive.
And I really like Ulysses Gilbert III. He's like he's almost as fast as Devin Bush statistically.
Yeah.
And if you get 2 of those guys in the NFL, I mean, you saw what happened when you didn't have one, and it would be nice to have somebody else that could make, even if it's quote unquote the poor man's version, you'd love to have the poor man's version.
Yeah, I think the Steelers' biggest weakness on defense is safety.
I think so, but the guy from the now defunct league looks like he's going to make the team and be a pretty good player. And Cameron Kelly, with 2 Ks. I think I would say their biggest weakness is probably tight end.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was just talking about defense. Tight end's definitely their weakness. So I was hoping maybe they could trade Dobbs and get a tight end, or else they're just going to claim somebody off the waiver wire.
I think they're going to have to because I don't think that I don't think Gentry is anywhere near ready to play.
And Grimble is we know what he is,
and he's a great 3rd tight end.
If we were keeping
3 tight ends. I did not like Vance McDonald dropping that pass early on. I'm just going to say it.
He dropped 2.
He dropped 2, but the first one hit him right in the hands. Like that's about as perfect a pass as you can have.
Well, about time to do our predictions. Where do you start? AFC or NFC first?
Let's go NFC.
All right. Number 4, without a doubt, Arizona Cardinals.
I think Arizona Cardinals. I'm excited I want to watch Kyler Murray. I think I wouldn't mind having David Johnson in fantasy football. Maybe even Christian Kirk or Larry Fitzgerald, but I think that team's a couple years away from being a real team.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big adjustment for the coach in the NFL with the rules and the speed of the game. So we're going to see. I think they're a lock for number 4.
I think a lot, easily, yeah.
Okay. Number 3. I guess I'm going to go 49ers, although they could surprise.
I got to say, I kind of agree with you. I wanted to switch. That's who I picked on my paper. I wanted to switch just to change it up a little bit, but I think there's a little bit of a quarterback controversy brewing. And
yeah.
I think they need a new training staff because they keep getting a lot of their key guys seem to be coming up hurt quite often. And it could just be bad luck. It could be, I don't know what it is, but I feel like,
could be a lot
of things, but Jimmy G's got to really start showing out.
Yeah, I agree. He looked much better last day than he did the week before.
It's true. He did.
All right. Number 2, Seattle. Number 1, the Rams. And you're probably going to agree with me.
I can't go against that. I mean,
this division is a lot more clear-cut than a lot of others.
And I don't think the Rams are going to have quite the Super Bowl hangover the other teams have had because they're such a young team for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're going to have
I think they're going to come back with a chip. They've got a good chance of making a Super Bowl.
I think they really do as well. I think they're going to be a little bit – I think Sean McVay was a little bit cocky at his system. I think he'll come back a little bit more diverse on offense, some other sets. I think they've got some better guys in there to, sort of help, keep Gurley fresh for most of the year. Like I know he's got the degenerative knee and he's going to be out for a while. I mean, he's never going to be the same player he was. But I think he can still be great in spurts. And if you can have him healthy for, most of the year, I think that's going to be huge, especially for the playoffs because they were.
I think a lot of teams are showing that you need 2 good running backs and you need to alternate them and not wear them out. So I'll be curious what happens with Le'Veon Bell this year.
I think a lot of people are curious what happens to Le'Veon Bell this year.
Has he played yet?
No, Le'Veon Bell doesn't play preseason games. He said that himself.
Okay, good. And Antonio Brown hasn't played yet either, so we'll see.
But he is not getting a new. He's getting a new helmet. He's had 2 chances, and he's getting a new helmet.
And he's already said he's going to try and get his old helmet approved for next year. So he's not letting go of this.
No, he is not.
All right, let's go AFC. I'll let you go this time, and I'll be second this time all the way through.
All right. We're starting at the bottom. This is a tough one.
It is. It's a
really good division. I know who's on top. But I guess if I'm going to pick a team on the bottom, wow, Denver Broncos.
Oh, all right. I'm going to go with the Raiders on the bottom. I just don't see the Raiders being good.
I don't see them being good, but I also think the Raiders have a lot of talent. And
they do. It take a while for the talent.
And I know I've spoken poorly of a number of Raiders, including their coach, and I'm not changing my mind on a lot of those things. But I don't like the Broncos' quarterback situation or their offensive weapons. You're relying on Emmanuel Sanders, former Steeler, who I still like, but 32 years old, coming off a knee injury, and I know he looks great so far, but I don't think that's sustainable. And I just don't know what their identity is outside of a good pass rush on defense.
Okay, so we're both, you and I are opposite on 3 and 4, but we're both the same.
It's the same 3 and 4. I just think Oakland maybe surprises. I think the expectations are low, but I think you look at that offense and they have a lot of talent on that team. And I mean, it may have been fool's gold, but I mean, Derek Carr is 2 years removed from being an MVP candidate and a Pro Bowler. And I think, I think they'll figure out a way to make it work for him for a little bit.
Well, who's your 2?
The Chargers.
Yeah, it's my 2 as well. And the Chiefs are obviously my number 1.
The Chiefs
as yours.
I mean,
can we expect him to have the same year he had last year?
No. But as people pointed out, if he regresses 6 touchdowns or 10 touchdowns, he still throws for 40 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Tyreek Hill, as we spoke about, it's a terrible situation. But I mean, if you're a Chiefs fan, a Chiefs player, that was a huge, huge thing. He's one of the most difficult receivers to deal with. You have to have safety over the top help. He opens up things for everybody else. I mean, it's a huge thing getting him back for the full year.
Yeah.
And I think between Damian Williams and some of those other guys, they'll make up for the loss of Kareem Hunt. They still have Kelsey, and I think, I mean, they still have questions on defense, but no team is seemingly perfect. Obviously, there's the Patriots about them, so whatever. Talk about them next week.
Yes, we will talk about.
But the Chiefs are another team that, I mean, they're a Super Bowl contender, full stop. So,
yeah. And I think the Rams are the Chargers are good enough that if the Chiefs falter, they'll win the division.
Oh, without a doubt. But you got the Melvin Gordon situation, a few other things happening, so everything's a little bit up in the air.
And
okay, great.
To see how hard line we're going to be on these holdouts.
Just speaking quickly of the Melvin Gordon thing. He's one of those guys, like, I don't quite get Melvin Gordon. I think he's good, but I don't think I wouldn't give him that kind of money. I mean, it's tough to give any running back that second giant contract. Melvin Gordon, he struck me as a guy that is a good running back. And, you put him in that system and with all those players around him, he does really well. But I don't think I thought Eckler looked really good last year. I think this rookie they've got, Justin Jackson, I think they can replace him and not skip a beat.
What about Zeke?
Zeke is a beast. But again, I think we've already said it, but I mean, and it's a terrible situation for running backs. But I don't know what you do if you're a team. running backs have a really short shelf life.
I'll tell you how the Zeke thing will work out. You give him a new contract, 2 years from now, he's going to want
Oh,
another
without
new
a doubt.
contract.
That's not for
He's never going to honor the terms of his contract. Never happened.
Yeah, again, I don't know what the answer is for running backs because, I mean, you can seemingly find one every couple of years if you need one. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I know we just talked about them, so forgive us. James Conner looked phenomenal last night. And as people have pointed out, in the beginning of the year, the Steelers didn't miss a beat. James Conner had, statistically a slightly better season than Le'Veon Bell had the year before. So, I don't want to I'm not completely discounting. I'm just simply saying, in a very real way, I mean, you can replace, even the best running backs are replaceable.
Sure. I mean, it's the line that opens the holes. The Steelers line is amazing. I want to see what Le'Veon Bell does with the Jets offensive line.
And as we point, I mean, you don't get, there's just so many miles a running back has. And, I think for every Frank Gore, and Frank Gore is apparently a freak of nature who just can continue to play forever somehow. Oh, yeah. I mean, but he is very, very rare. And apparently Adrian Peterson can still run too. But for the most part, running backs have a 4 or 5. So it's like, if you have a running back, it's like, why am I going to keep this guy? It doesn't make any sense. Pay him tons of money and then have him, a Cod Gurley situation where you've got this part-time player making a ton of money on your team. It just doesn't work.
Okay. Entertainment and food, Tom.
I had the Popeyes chicken sandwich in both varieties, spicy and original, because I wanted to try them both. And it's a really, really good chicken sandwich. It's crispy, it's juicy, the breading falls off, it's got a toasted bun, pickles. I got mine without the mayonnaise because I'm not a mayonnaise guy, but I mean, and I would say this, it's much crispier and larger. It's a bigger piece of chicken than you get at Chick-fil-A. But as I told you off the air, politics aside, they both make a really good chicken sandwich. You're not really going wrong in either place.
Agree. So I'm gonna go this week and try my spicy chicken so I can report back on our show what my assessment was.
And I'm going to save my entertainment moment till next week because you're finishing the show. But I finished Mindhunter and really loved it. And I wouldn't mind talking about it. We can have a little mini discussion next week. But
yeah, I've got 3 episodes left, and I'm going to try and do those tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. It's so well done.
Yeah, it's a great show.
My food moment was a restaurant named Monello in San Diego in Little Italy. And it was amazing. Your mom had seafood lasagna and had so much seafood, I couldn't even believe how much was in it. And Uncle John and I both had the regular Monello's lasagna, and it was tremendous as well.
Oh.
It was really, really good. So it's one of my new spots in San Diego. San Diego is a great food city. So this is one of my new spots in San Diego.
Oh, I have an addition to my food moment. I went to Baton Rouge on Saturday to go to an escape room at the 13th Gate. Really fun. If you like escape rooms, it was a blast. But afterwards, we went to Mid Tap, which is a place where you get a wristband and they have drinks and beer and wine all on tap, and you sort of go there. But for dessert, we got deconstructed s'mores. We got incredibly good melted really good homemade marshmallows. You got a Ghirardelli chocolate dipping sauce. And then they had these little circular cinnamon sugar churros you've made is the top of your marshmallow sandwiches.
Wow. That sounds
and they were
amazing.
Outstanding.
Well, wait a minute now. So talk about the escape room for a couple minutes.
Okay.
I want to hear this.
So the 13th Gate is one of the top escape room places in America. So at least what they advertise it to be. And we did one. It was about these witches who were holding this vampire. They were trying to raise him from the dead. So our job was to get through all the rooms and stab the vampire in the heart before time ran out.
Okay, so how much time?
60 minutes.
Okay. And how many
we had
people
we had a team of 6. And we did the room in 58 minutes.
Wow, that's okay.
We did.
You did it, though.
We got a little thrown off by a puzzle early on, and we signed a waiver for no spoilers. But you started. It was really cool. Like you started out in like a woods area, and there was these handprints burned into trees. You had to figure out what to do with everything, and then we ended up in a cabin, and then eventually into a secret room where the vampire's lair was. And you're solving little
So
puzzles along the way.
Are they projections?
No,
or
it's all
they?
real. Like it's real. Like you're doing all. You get like there's knobs and cranes and like word puzzles and math puzzles. And,
How do they
what's
do
that?
the outside thing? How do they do the
Oh,
outside thing?
you were in a fake outside. But like it was the cabin's porch, but you couldn't get in the front door because there was no doorknob. So then you had to figure out how to get through the door, and you'd find pieces of paper to put back for the scroll, and it was a whole thing. It's a lot of fun.
Like
and then you get that's the first room. The second room, you can't have your watch or your cell phone or anything with you. And they have candles labeled 1 to 60 along the wall. So you could watch as your time went down. And you had an animatronic cat in this one. It was your Lynx who was sort of telling you what was going on, which was pretty cool too. Yeah.
That's kind of cool. So how much is
it was $30 a person. It really was. Like, it was well worth it. Especially for the level of production value this one had. Like this was really, because there's one in Clearwater Beach up by the gym, believe it or not. And when Maria was down there with me, we walked into that one just to check it out. And all of them were just single rooms, and they looked really bad. This one was just really, really cool.
Well, you would think in New Orleans you could have
this was Baton Rouge.
Yeah, still Louisiana. You could think of a pretty cool one. And that's a college town too, so I'm sure it gets a lot of business.
Well, they were churning people in and out. And the good thing is 6 people seem like the right amount of people to have. You can have up to 8 on your team. And technically, we lucked out because they can sell up to 8 spots. So we could have been stuck with 2 strangers.
Yeah. Which would not have been as much fun.
But I would highly recommend them. That one's the 13th gate. And they have 6 rooms and then a VR experience too. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think that's pretty good for our show.
So next week, AFC East, NFC East, and we're doing all the teams, right?
Yeah, because the next week is the season, so we got to get them all.
And then it's also going to be NFC North and the AFC North, so you'll get more Steeler talk.
And I'm already picking the Steelers.
Spoiler alert: I'm picking the Steelers to win as well.
Good. All right, everybody. Please rate us. Please tell your friends. We want to generate some more listeners for the podcast.
And obviously, if anybody has any questions or any topics they'd like to discuss, please, tweet us, email us, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
We'd be more than happy to interact in that sort of way.
All right. Talk at you next week.